The Bentley mansion sparkled under the night sky, its crystal chandeliers casting prismatic light over polished marble floors. Outside, a fleet of luxury cars glided up the long driveway, their tires crunching on white gravel. Inside, the air was filled with the murmur of affluent guests, champagne glasses clinking, and the faint strains of a string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon. At the center of it all was Claire Hartley, mid-30s, radiant yet understated. Her gown was elegant, simple, and perfectly tailored to her figure, not ostentatious, not showy, but undeniably beautiful. She smiled politely as she shook hands and exchanged pleasantries, greeting each member of her new husband's family. Her husband, Richard Bentley Jr., beamed proudly beside her, oblivious to the glances behind his back. But the smiles weren't genuine. Greater than Mrs. Bentley, whispering to her daughter, tilting her head with a smirk, "Can you believe he actually married her? Ordinary doesn't even begin to cover it." Greater than Uncle Harold, chuckling, swirling his brandy, "I half expected him to choose someone with a socialite pedigree, or at least a model. This is laughable." Claire's lips remained a perfect mask of politeness, but inside, a small fire flickered. She had grown up underestimated, overlooked, and underestimated again. She had learned early that the world was cruel to those who didn't flaunt wealth or status. But she had a secret weapon: patience, intelligence, and vision. Greater than Claire, to herself, quietly, her eyes scanning the room, "Laugh all you want. I'll show you who wins in the end." The family's subtle jabs and whispered ridicule were just background noise to Claire. Every raised eyebrow, every muffled chuckle, was data for her. She noted who was arrogant, who relied on fear, and who only respected power when it was wielded convincingly. The wedding ceremony itself had been a spectacle of grandeur. Richard's family spared no expense: silk drapes cascading from the ceiling, gold-rimmed invitations, a custom orchestra. Yet beneath the opulence, Claire noticed cracks. There was tension in the smiles, competition in the handshakes, and an unspoken hunger to control the narrative. Greater than groomsman one, leaning toward another, low voice, "I still don't understand why he picked her. She's normal, not a Bentley by birth or background." Greater than groomsman two, "It's probably a phase. Wait until the honeymoon, then he'll realize what he's done." Claire caught snippets of the conversation and smiled inwardly. They had no idea. She wasn't intimidated by titles, money, or influence. She had built her own successes quietly: a real estate portfolio, savvy investments, and a network of allies who respected her intellect. Tonight, they saw only a bride, unaware of the force she could become. Dinner began, and the Bentley family dominated the conversation, speaking of legacy, mergers, and profit margins. Claire listened, carefully noting every arrogance-laden sentence. She asked polite questions, made subtle observations, and quietly inserted herself into strategic topics without overstepping. Her calm intelligence was barely visible, yet it pricked at the edges of their smug confidence. Greater than Claire, thinking, sipping her water, "Every empire has a weakness. Every dynasty has cracks, and they're so busy laughing, they don't even see it." Despite their mockery, she maintained grace. Every laugh, every side-eyed comment, she absorbed like a chess master studying an opponent's move. She didn't need to retaliate tonight, her moment would come. As the night wore on, the family's condescension continued. Whispered comments about her humble background, jokes about her modest wedding gift, and laughter over trivial faux pas tried to unseat her composure. Yet, Claire never flinched. She knew something they didn't. The quiet ones, the underestimated ones, often held the most dangerous potential. Greater than Claire, to herself, as she looked across the ballroom at Richard's family, their faces still smug. "They think money defines power. They're wrong. I'll show them what real power looks like, and it won't come with a gilded invitation or a silver spoon. It'll come with strategy, patience, and precision. $1 billion, and every laugh tonight will echo back at them." For the first time, she felt that fire of anticipation, not fear. This wasn't just a wedding. This was her opening move, the first act of a story in which she would not be laughed at. She would rise, quietly, invisibly, until the empire that mocked her would bend to her vision. The night continued, chandeliers glittering, champagne flowing, laughter echoing. And in the midst of it all, Claire Hartley's quiet smile hinted at the storm to come, a storm that would crush arrogance and rewrite power entirely on her terms. The Bentley headquarters was a fortress of glass and steel, sleek and intimidating. Polished floors reflected the city skyline like a mirror, while abstract paintings and minimalist decor reminded everyone that wealth here was not just money, it was status, pedigree, and control. Claire walked in quietly, blending into the environment yet fully alert. She had spent weeks gaining access to this world, attending corporate meetings under the guise of familiarizing herself with her husband's business operations. She was, in many ways, invisible, but that invisibility was her advantage. Greater than board member 1 whispering to a colleague, smirking, "I still don't understand how Richard chose her. She's inexperienced. She doesn't know the first thing about business." Greater than board member 2, exactly. She's not even from money. Honestly, what can she bring to this empire besides charm? Claire overheard every word, every dismissive glance, every laugh behind her back, fueled her focus. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. Actions spoke louder than words, and she was preparing her first move. Claire's private study, night. Later that evening, Claire returned to her apartment, a modest yet chic space far from the Bentley mansion. She sat at her desk, laptop open, and spreadsheets glowing under soft lamp light. The air smelled faintly of jasmine, and classical music played softly in the background, but her mind was entirely focused on one thing: strategy. She had spent months quietly analyzing the Bentley Empire's holdings. Real estate ventures with overleveraged assets. Tech subsidiaries underperforming due to mismanagement. Luxury brands resting on reputation rather than innovation. Each weakness was a thread waiting to unravel. Greater than Claire, muttering to herself, "They're arrogant. Every decision is made with ego, not intelligence. They think their name protects them. It doesn't." Her plan was bold. A $1 billion investment to acquire a neglected but highly strategic division of the Bentley conglomerate. Not only would this move give her a foothold in the empire, but it would also expose vulnerabilities in a system built on entitlement and pride. Greater than Claire, leaning back, eyes narrowing, "They laughed at me at the wedding. Called me ordinary. Underestimated me. Perfect. That's exactly what I need them to do." Confidence born from ignorance is the deadliest enemy. She typed furiously, sending secure communications to key investors, aligning venture partners, and building a network of support. Each message, each phone call, carefully calibrated to ensure that when she made her move, it would be unstoppable. Greater than Claire, $1 billion. Enough to control the division. Enough to expose the cracks. They've tried to hide, and every laugh tonight, every sneer, they'll see it come back tenfold. Bentley boardroom, day. The following week, the board convened. Claire entered quietly, her presence commanding attention without a word. The Bentley family, once amused by her naivety, now felt a subtle shift in the air. Something was different. She was no longer just a bride, they were starting to feel a hint of challenge. Greater than Mr. Bentley Sr. "Claire, are you sure you understand the scope of what you're proposing?" Greater than Claire, calmly, "I do. The Tech Division X subsidiary has been underperforming due to oversight and poor management. With $1 billion and a clear operational plan, I can turn it around and make it profitable within 2 fiscal quarters." Gasps echoed around the room. The arrogance that had shielded them now faltered under the clarity of her intelligence. Greater than Uncle Harold, stammering, You mean to cut us out?" Greater than Claire, meeting his gaze steadily, "I mean to run it efficiently. That's what leaders do, Uncle Harold. They don't let pride dictate decisions." She pulled up detailed charts and projections. Every number, every strategy, precise and unassailable. Investors were ready. Board members began murmuring, their previous confidence dissolving. Greater than Claire, continuing, "This isn't a gamble. It's strategy. And it's backed by credible partners who understand its value." By the end of the presentation, the room was silent. Not one voice dared challenge her plan. The family who had mocked her brilliance now realized they were facing a formidable force. Greater than Claire, thinking, quietly, "Every empire built on arrogance has cracks. And tonight, I've found the first one." Richard watched her, awe mingling with pride. The woman they laughed at, whom they had dismissed, was already reshaping the very empire they thought untouchable. The sun shone through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the polished boardroom table. Claire hardly entered, calm and poised, carrying a slim folder of documents that would soon shake the foundations of the Bentley Empire. Richard's family gathered around, their expressions ranging from smug confidence to barely concealed irritation. They had anticipated a polite, awkward presentation from the ordinary bride. Instead, Claire exuded confidence that made the room tense. Greater than Claire, "Good morning. Today, I am presenting an opportunity that will redefine part of this empire. With $1 billion, I intend to acquire and revitalize the Tech Division X subsidiary, a division many of you have overlooked. Murmurs rippled through the room. Gasps. The eldest Bentley uncle leaned forward, eyebrows furrowed. Greater than Uncle Harold. You, what? Are you serious? Greater than Claire calmly, unwavering, absolutely. The division is underperforming due to mismanagement. I have the strategy, the investors, and the operational plan to turn it into a highly profitable venture. Richard's father, Mr. Bentley Sr., shook his head, disbelief flashing across his features. Greater than Mr. Bentley Sr. How could you even secure $1 billion investment? You're greater than Claire, cutting him off. I am fully aware of the risks and rewards, sir. That is precisely why my partners and I have committed. Unlike past board decisions, this one is backed by detailed analytics, forecasts, and credible capital. In other words, it cannot fail if executed as planned. She clicked her presentation, displaying charts, growth projections, and investor commitments. Every figure was meticulously calculated. Every weakness of the previous management exposed. The room went quiet. Even the most arrogant board members could not find a flaw. Greater than board member 1, grudgingly, I have to admit, this is well thought out. Greater than board member 2, this is audacious. And effective. Claire's calm demeanor never faltered. She knew this was the moment. The empire that had mocked her was finally realizing she was the threat they had underestimated. Int. Bentley Mansion, night. The family gathered after the boardroom announcement. Panic and disbelief replaced the earlier smugness. Greater than Mrs. Bentley, voice trembling, this cannot be happening. How did she? Greater than Uncle Harold, clenching his fists, we underestimated her. Every single step, she's played us like pieces on a chessboard. Richard stood silently, watching Claire from across the room. Pride and admiration gleamed in his eyes. Greater than Richard. She's incredible. Claire approached, composed yet triumphant. Greater than Claire, softly, almost kindly, you laughed when I arrived. Called me ordinary, dismissed me, and now, pausing, letting her words sink in, the division is mine to manage. The silence was deafening. Every member of the Bentley family understood the magnitude of her power. The empire they had built on arrogance and entitlement was now vulnerable in the hands of the one they had mocked. Int. Claire's new office, day. Weeks later, Claire sat at her desk, overlooking the city skyline. Her office was sleek, minimalistic, and undeniably hers. Investors called, profits soared, and the media buzzed about the bold $1 billion acquisition that had redefined a legacy company. Richard entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee, a playful grin on his face. Greater than Richard. Not bad for the ordinary wife. Greater than Claire, smiling, setting aside her tablet, sometimes ordinary is just the disguise genius prefers. He leaned against the doorway, eyes filled with admiration. Greater than Richard. You didn't just win a division. You earned respect, loyalty, and maybe the entire family finally sees you for who you are. Claire chuckled softly, thinking back to the wedding night, the whispers, the laughter, the underestimation. Now, it all seemed distant. Greater than Claire. They'll remember this. Not just for the money, but for the lesson, never underestimate someone quietly working while you boast. Richard walked over, placing a hand over hers. Greater than Richard. And I never will again. They shared a smile, a mix of love, respect, and partnership. Claire had not only proven herself in business but had reshaped the very power structure that had doubted her. Her victory was complete, financially, strategically, and personally. Outside, the city thrummed with life, oblivious to the quiet storm that had transformed an underestimated bride into a billion-dollar powerhouse.